Good morning, sir.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning, Govind sir. Govind sir.
Book
राजेश
sir, sir,
राजेश सर गुड
sir.
मॉर्निंग या हाँ गुड मॉर्निंग गुप्ता सर नहीं आपके पहले गोविंद सर ने भी बोला गोविंद ने भी बोला
Okay, okay.
या गुड मॉर्निंग
Good morning, Rathod sir.
हाँ कार्य सर गुड मॉर्निंग गुड मॉर्निंग
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Rathod sir.
गुड मॉर्निंग विकास सर गुड मॉर्निंग सॉरी Good morning, sir. Principal sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am. Nappinai, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning, Nator sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, ma'am.
Uh,
Shall we start, ma'am?
Inside before I could.
You want me? You have some PPT, something you'd like to share when you will?
See, I have a PPT, but I may not share it.
Okay.
I have 45 minutes. Now,
Yes.
in fact, do you want me to set aside 15 out of the 45, or in addition, do you want me to do 15?
In addition, ma'am. In addition, 1 hour is there for you. We have kept entire 1 hour, ma'am, for you.
Perfect. So, I think the sharing is not activated still.
Yeah, not activated. If you want, I will do that whenever you.
So you can do that because I have a PPT, but I may just decide not to use it, or I may just show some slides. These are
Okay, ma'am.
it's just a PPT of pictures, so it's just to keep the interest going, like that. So,
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah. No problem, ma'am. So we will start, madam. Shall we start?
Sure.
Yeah, we'll go ahead. The principal says, shall we start? Sir is there? Yes.
Please.
Yeah, sir.
Yes, Rathod, sir.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Okay, warm welcome to everyone to this third faculty development program on intelligent automation, machine learning, and data science. So there were 3 faculty development programs sponsored by AICT. First one on the same topic, which we have already completed. The theme of that workshop was foundation building of data science, in which we have covered mathematical foundations. Second one was on the machine learning and artificial algorithms. And this is the third one, which we are inaugurating today. It is on data science and its applications. And I am delighted to start this program because today we have 3 eminent personalities, well-known personalities, not only in the country, but they are international personalities. And I'm very, very happy and delighted to see ma'am face in the meeting. Ma'am is sitting in the meeting. I'll introduce shortly to her as well, but it's my duty to introduce all the participants and all the attendees over here. What are they going to learn in the next 2 weeks, 15 days? So today we are starting with our inaugural session. I welcome everyone from the nooks and corners of the country. Participants are from all corners of our country. Around 100 participants will be there, sharing their knowledge. A lot of discussion I'm expecting in these 2 weeks. So I welcome all the participants first of all, because if you're not there, this FDP cannot happen. And then I welcome all the resource persons. Some of them have joined today meet as well. And first of all, I welcome our chief guest, Ns. Nappinai ma'am. Shortly, I'll introduce her. I welcome Subramaniam Vutha sir also. He'll be joining shortly with us. I welcome Aditi Avasthi ma'am. Her session is scheduled around 11:30. And I'm proud to say that she is also associated with us. So very nice that Aditi ma'am accepted our request for the keynote speech. And I welcome all teaching, non-teaching staff, everyone for this inauguration session of FDP. So all of us knows how important the data science and artificial intelligence, and many of the participants have already undergone training for the 4 weeks, and rather this is the 5th week, I would say. So first day will be the kind of a motivation and why we should have hand in hand technology and the legal aspects going. So that is what we are going to discuss in next 2 to 3 hours. Then evening session we will have from Dr. Pooja Rondale about path from artificial intelligence to deep learning. Then the next day 8th, we will have the complete cycle of the data science from preparation, pre-processing, modeling, analytics, evaluation, and finally visualization. This particular track, we have taken the inputs or you can say feedback from the sessions, and some of the participants have requested that should be included. One is the supply chain management case study, which we have taken care of. And second is some kind of sessions, hands-on sessions on visualization tool like Tableau. So we will have the session on Tableau as well as assignments on Tableau. Then our very own alumni, Ms. Devanshi Bhatt, will be joining us on the 9th. She will be talking about safeguarding online communities from the toxicity. She is working at present at United States Spectrum Labs. Then next day, we will have session from the IIT Patna professor, Dr. Mayank Agrawal. He will be talking about the time series analysis. Then we will have the hands-on session on CNN neural networks and deep autoencoders from our very own faculty, Dr. Pooja Rondale and Dr. Aarti Karande. Then we have on the 12th, Dr. Mansi Patwardhan, who is a scientist at Tata Consultancy Services and very renowned in data science. She will be taking the session. Then we will have industry participants like industry resource person, Mr. Pankaj Sharma from Emphasis Limited. Deep learning neural network studies of RNN, etc. by Dr. Mayank Singh, who is from IIT Gandhinagar. We will have one session, evening hands-on session by the MathWorks on how to use MATLAB, etc. for data science. Then we will have session from Dr. Mayuri Mehta, who is again a CEO of the startup, and she's also faculty of an engineering college. So she'll be talking of artificial intelligence as her startup about the healthcare technologies. Then we will have Mr. Pawan Fakatkar from KPIT. He will be talking about how to use artificial intelligence on autonomous driving. And he's a day in and day out working on autonomous driving applications. So we'll have very good sessions from him. Then we will have Mr. Govind Gondalkar from Micro Device Technologies, who will be talking about tiny ML applications and IoT on edge with the linear regression. Our own Dr. Kalbande will be taking the case studies on how to use artificial intelligence for identification of skin diseases, which is a very relevant and apt topic. Then we have also included one of the case study of similarity analysis of legal documents. That is from Ms. Zaipuro from Credit Suisse and Ms. Janani from Shared Reach. Then we will have an anomaly detection methods for endoscopic videos from Mr. Tejas from Myco, Ms. Soumya from Piramal Pharma, and Ritvika Iyer from Reliance Jio. And finally, we will end with our validatory session from Dr. Shiba Parthi, who is at Symbiosis School of Banking and Finance, Pune. So this is our entire 2 weeks program, which I have narrated. So from this program, you might have realized that we have covered almost all kinds of applications, from legal to healthcare to autonomous driving to IoTs, all kinds of applications. So I welcome you, and I hope all sessions will be interactive and you enjoy all of the sessions. I request our head of the department, Dr. D.C. Karia, to say a few words. Dr. Karia, sir, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Rathod, sir. Thank you so much. It's really a great privilege for me to address this inaugural session. On this auspicious occasion of online learning, let us seek the blessings of Lord Ganesha and Devi Bhagavati. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarva Kareshu Sarvada Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Matrurupen Namastasya Namastasya Namo Namah. On behalf of Electronics Department, Sardar Patel Institute of Technology, it is indeed my privilege to welcome the chief guest for today's inaugural session, Dr. B.N. Chaudhary, Principal S.P.I.T, Ms. N.S. Nappinai, Supreme Court Advocate, Cyber Law Expert, and founder of Cyber Saathi. Welcome, ma'am. It's my privilege to welcome you, ma'am. Thank you so much for being there. Mr. Subramaniam, who is currently not there, Subramaniam sir, Advocate and founder of TLF. Ms. Aditi Avasthi, founder and CEO of Embibe. Really, it's our privilege to have such speakers for the participants from various corners of India. It's definitely because of their participations, this sort of session has been going on. Really, it will be an honor to have along the entire 2 weeks of session. I welcome everyone on board, and I'm so thankful to the organizing committee that they have given me such a privilege to welcome ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for Saraswati Vandana and opening this session. Now, it is again, I would say, delighted to have our principal, sir, joining today's morning session, early morning session. So, sir, guiding words from you. You always motivate us. And because of your support and motivation, we are able to conduct all these FDPs. So, I welcome Dr. B.N. Chaudhary, sir, for this inaugural session. And I request an address from sir, sorry. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Professor Rathod. At first, I welcome all the participants on the behalf of S.P.I.T to this wonderful 2 weeks FDP. Let me also congratulate Professor Rathod for arranging several FDPs, a sequel of 3 FDPs in this data science. He already has had one sequel in other domain and another now this sequel in the data science, AI and machine learning. In one of the inauguration, I told to then participant that only Professor Rathod can show this bravery of arranging 6 FDPs one after another back to back. From last 3 months, he is totally engaged in organizing these 6 FDPs, more than 150 expert lectures, expert talks. He must have arranged in those 6 FDPs, and he must have had communication with several participants. I really appreciate the efforts taken by Professor Rathod and his team, Electronics Department, in sharing the knowledge and connecting experts in diversified fields to the audience. This sequel is a beautiful sequel where the first FDP was on the foundation of data science, second FDP was a core algorithmic development, and I believe this third FDP is focusing on the applications. Hardly any walk of human life or human facet of life we observe where AI, machine learning, computer science has not impacted. Law cannot be the exception. And therefore, I'm very glad to have our chief guest today, Nappinai madam, who is advocate at Supreme Court. I'm sure she will introduce us to the AI penetration in the law. World has already started thinking of this, using of this. IBM AI ROS is being adopted by many law firms in US, and its spread and its applications are increasing. Our own Chief Justice Honorable Chandrachud, as well as Honorable Bobde sir, both have very positive view towards the AI. Though it hasn't penetrated much, but there is a positive atmosphere. I'm sure Madam will throw a light on uh, possible penetration of AI and machine learning in the legal system of the country. I welcome you all, and I wish these 2 weeks will be a great learning to you. Education has already landed into new normal, and this new normal will break the silos of different domains of education. So far, we have witnessed a growth of higher education in silos. We have institutions devoted only to one specific branch. That very notion of university where all domains exist, we have forgotten. It was our own notion. Our universities, our ancient universities guided the world, the concept of university and how the different domains exist in the same umbrella, and how the cross-domain learning takes place and how it leads to the overall development of persons and sensible citizens. However, for whatever reasons, we have encouraged a domain-specific education, and that's why we have separate law colleges in the country. We have separate engineering colleges. We have separate science colleges, and we had separate liberal arts colleges. Perhaps time has come. We break these silos. We walk on the guidelines given by our national education policies. Madam, I am very happy to share you with a fact that S.P.I.T is a proactive in this domain. Before this NEP was announced, we already modified our curriculum, and we have a sequel of law courses in our engineering curriculum under the umbrella of humanities. Students are given an opportunity to learn law for engineers in the form of three short courses, and they can earn 6 credits. We have sequel in law, we have sequel in history, we have sequel in psychology, we have sequel in languages, and we have kept humanities as one of the important uh, course or important stream even in all our undergraduate engineering programs. Perhaps we also have biology in our courses, right? So we are trying from our side to give to move or to walk in the light of national education policy, and watching carefully what are the word practices, and we are trying to follow those word practices while offering undergraduate education. I welcome you, madam, and thank you for accepting our invitation. And I wish all the participants a great week ahead. Thank you. All the best to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your kind words, and also for introducing the attendees and our guests about our curriculum and the new aspects that we have introduced into the curriculum. Thank you very much for this, sir. Renuka madam, next. Yeah. So now it is also my privilege to introduce our program evaluation committee. This is a committee which evaluates the entire course for 2 weeks. So I welcome Dr. D.C. Karia, Dr. D.R. Kadwande, and Dr. B.B. Bhautankar as a member of the program evaluation committee for this FDP program. Welcome, sir. I think Mr. Subramaniam Vutha sir also joined. So, good morning, Subramaniam sir. You are there. I'm happy to see your name in the participants list. Renuka madam, next. Sir has already highlighted, our principal sir has highlighted, but I thought let us put one slide that what S.P.I.T actually initiated in this particular domain of law and technology. And we did it successfully in the last 2 years. And what sir has narrated is an extension again of this. So at S.P.I.T, we believe that students should be legally responsible. They should behave as a responsible citizen of this country. And as an engineer, they should be aware of the legal aspects of their designs, their solutions, because engineer is providing a solution to the society. And that solution should be safe, secure, enough to be adopted by the society. And therefore, we have introduced various courses. This is a slide which tells us the courses which we already ran last 2 years. So we have a course called as Constitution of India. There is an activity-based course called as Legal Studies for Engineers. And there is a course called as Law for Engineers separately. All are compulsory courses. And in legal studies, activity-based course, we conduct many competitions. Probably, to the best of my knowledge, first of an engineering college, at least in India, to have a moot court competition, Indian judiciary system competition, negotiation competition, client counseling competition, and there is one more which we have added last year, which is not there on slide. That is called as contract drafting competition. So these are the competitions which we had already included and we ran successfully. And as far as Law for Engineers course is concerned, we teach students basics of information technology law. Just few basics so that we create an awareness. We teach IPR laws, copyright, trade secrets, patent drafting, all those are covered. To some extent, labor laws also been taught. And finally, the course ends with the corporate laws like company formation, etc., etc. So these are the things which we have already introduced, and we also have a Manupatra kind of a software which probably engineering college will not purchase, but we have a licensed Manupatra software in our college so that our students get easy access to all legal databases. So this is what we do, ma'am, at S.P.I.T as a technology and law initiative. Ma'am, next slide, Renuka ma'am. Now it is my privilege, without taking more time, to bring our chief guest on board. And I am pleased to introduce ma'am, Miss N.S. Nappinai ma'am, advocate at Supreme Court of India and Bombay High Court. She is a cyber law expert. Madam is advisor to TNEGA, that is Tamil Nadu E-Governance Agency, and also to the Maharashtra Cyber Police. Ma'am is author of Cyber Laws and she is a TED speaker. Ma'am is the founder of Cyber Saathi, an initiative with a vision to empower through knowledge of cyber laws, threats, and vulnerabilities. She is a senior and renowned lawyer since 1991, focusing on litigation and policy work. As a social responsibility engagements, she is also involved for training judges, police, armed forces, students, and industry. Ma'am appears as a counsel in cases pertaining to constitutional, criminal, IPR, and cyber laws. A pioneer in cyber laws, ma'am handles complex international and domestic litigations pertaining to constitutional, criminal, and commercial laws. Her report here of cases handled since 1991 includes white-collar offenses, constitutional challenges, protecting IP in films, gaming, and software, cyber crimes, data breaches, online offenses, cyber frauds, and commercial litigations through innovative strategies. She undertakes corporate transactions involving private equity and debt structuring, technology transfers, and IPR, and advises on data protection laws across jurisdictions. Ms. Nappinai ma'am lends her expertise in cyber laws and in particular cyber crimes, electronic evidence and IPR for training judiciary, including from SARC countries, government, armed forces, intelligence and police officials and industry. She contributed to the Law Commission in drafting the Indian legislation for establishing commercial courts in 2015. She is on the advisory board of several organizations. Ms. Nappinai ma'am has addressed sessions at international levels, including ma'am has addressed United Kingdom's House of Commons, United States of America, Singapore, Malta, and Spain. Ms. Nappinai is a mediator trained inter alia at WIPO, that is World Intellectual Property Organization, Geneva. Ma'am is a prolific writer whose articles have been published in leading national and international publications. She has authored a book on cyber laws titled Technology Laws Decoded. In fact, I, being a teacher for Law for Engineers course at S.P.I.T, have referenced MAP's book. And it was a very interesting book, and I enjoyed the details given by ma'am as a technocrat in the book. Obviously, I could not understand many law terminologies, but still it was a very nice book to be introduced in engineering college. Ma'am has contributed a chapter on rethinking social media through the prism of freedoms, liberties, and victim rights, published in the first script book titled Nani Palkiwala, Essays and Reminiscences, written in the honor of Nani Palkiwala. Her forthcoming books are Emerging Technology series and Cyber Saathi, a book on cyber safety for all. Ma'am, I welcome you at Bharati Vidya Bhavan's Sardar Patel Institute of Technology, and in particular for this FDP program. Myself and participants who are present from various parts of our country are very much delighted with your presence today and looking forward for your address, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. That was such a lovely introduction. And it was very interesting to see all the programs that your university is offering, because it's really intriguing. We keep talking about the relevance of law in every stream or domain. But this is very unique that you have already adapted and implemented the learning of law for engineers. So kudos to the educational institution too, and thank you for having me here. I would like my keynote to focus primarily on responsible technology. That is going to be the theme that I would like to take forward. And whilst exploring how technology can be responsible, I would also like to touch upon what and how policies are evolving, and these policies are then going to reflect in terms of how law is going to evolve for multiple jurisdictions. I would be focusing primarily on India, but I will definitely be touching upon some of the international laws and trends in today's session. I do hope that you all enjoy this ride and and get to learn from it too. So when we talk about innovation, the first thing that comes to mind, of course, is the opportunities. If you look at policies from across the world, you will see this as the primary focus in predominantly all the policies. Recognizing the opportunities that innovation brings forth, and understanding how this innovation can be converted into opportunities in various forms. So you have policies evolving. There are many countries which have resorted to laying down specifically policies for AI. I'm just putting up a slide that will give you an indication of where the process is today. So this is how far it's progressed in terms of policies when we talk about artificial intelligence. India joined this map in 2018 when Niti Aayog introduced its policy for artificial intelligence. And interestingly, they talk about AI for all. as an inclusive process. So today when we are talking about automation and innovation in the same breath, and also talking about how as technocrats you can contribute to this growth in a responsible fashion, these policy documents lend credibility to this construct. It lends a kind of roadmap for you to follow and understand where you could possibly pitch yourself. So I don't want to just talk about what are the possibilities or what the policies laid down. We may have to look beyond that too, because there is no reason to assume that this policy document, which would otherwise be a non-binding document, is going to be the be-all or end-all in understanding how the law is likely to be framed. I always use this slide. I know it's a little evocative, but I always use this when I want to explain this quote from my book, where I say that, and I draw from another writer who talks about how technology is propelling us forward into a new century with no plan, no control, no brakes. And it may now very well be time for reprising control before we cross the fail-safe point, right? So I refer to law as the brakes in your car. Choose your favorite car, right? You could choose all your fancy big cars, or let's take a fantasy car for example, a Batmobile, right? Would you ride the Batmobile? Would you get into the Batmobile if you believe that you cannot control it? Would you get into a Batmobile without brakes? You would not dare to do that. You would still want control. You would still want security. Once you feel secure, that is when you can speed. And I always say that law is not an impediment. It is not about creating obstacles. It is an enabler. Law is here to guide you in terms of how do you channelize your innovation in such a way that it does not go out of control. How can you catch it before it becomes too late? So, for instance, Elon Musk, when he talks about AI itself, says that we need to, he equates AI with nuclear technology. And he asks why we don't have regulatory oversight. And he says that we need to figure out how we can implement regulatory oversight before we do something foolish. I believe that this assumption that something foolish is a futuristic probability may itself be misplaced, because we may already be there. We may have already done something foolish, but now is the time when we have to bring in laws and regulations to ensure it doesn't throw us off the precipice. All this speeding, all this foolishness, and all this fun is amazing. The opportunities which are now being referred to, our own Niti Aayog document talks about the billions of dollars of opportunities that lie with AI, etc. Any emerging technology for that matter. It's great. We need to embrace it. We need a framework which will encourage innovation. At the same time, we also need those brakes, which will keep the innovation safe, which will enable us to actually use the innovation and not just, indulge in something which we may not necessarily be able to use practically. So on that note, where do we stand when we talk about innovation and brakes? How far can we go in terms of converting fact into safety measures and not keep it as fiction, right? So when we talk innovation, And today, when you have discussions in terms of responsible technology, there is an automatic attempt to equate innovation with, fictionalized versions. So there is an assumption that fiction demonizes AI or, for that matter, technology. When you have, and I'm going to take an Indian example here before the following ones, when you have a Chitti, a Rajinikanth, who plays the innovator as well as the innovation, when you have a Chitti which lacks emotional intelligence and then tries to take over the world, and it still does it applying Asimov's 3 laws, right, of robotics, and says that I'm still protecting you. I will not injure the human. I'm still protecting the human. And I will obey orders by the human, except when it harms humans. And I will protect my own existence, provided it doesn't harm humans and it complies with orders, right? So 3 combines this need for complying with 1 and 2. How does it move forward in terms of reality? And is it really demonization of technology when a Chitti reaches these laws or rules and possibly takes action which could harm? Take the movie Artificial Intelligence, for instance. That leads to another intriguing quirk here. This is a situation of protectionism instead of protection, where AI starts believing, if let's just take this assumption. If AI thinks that the best way it can save you or protect you from harm is by locking you up, okay, in a room, ensuring all comforts to you, taking great care of you, but not allowing you to decide what you want to do, not allowing you to move outside, not allowing you to to follow your choice, then it does in a way reach these terms of or the 3 laws of robotics, because what it thinks it does to protect you is what it probably does to harm you. I would want to close out the fictionalized aspect with one of the most fascinating books I read. Actually, I read it before the COVID time, but COVID lockdown also gave me a lot of opportunity to read a lot of fiction and non-fiction. So if you haven't read it already, so do check this out, Dan Brown's Origin. It may be predicated on something very basic or obvious or zany, but keep that aside. You have a Winston, which is actually an AI program which drives the narrative in the book. I don't want to do this, or let me give you a spoiler alert here for those of you who haven't read it. You may want to close your ears. But here is a situation where Winston thinks it's doing something that is good for its creator. The creator gives it a command, and it does that which it believes will help the creator best in achieving the target that has been set out in the brief or the mandate to the AI, and it results in a murder. So when you look at these kind of extreme examples that are given, and of course I can't close the fictionalized part without a mention of Terminator and its Skynet, right? Of machines taking over humans. These are extreme scenarios. These are fiction. We don't know whether we can even put it down as probabilities, right? Or even possibilities. But keeping aside the creative license that goes into this fictionalization of technology, keeping aside the over-the-top fictionalization, let's just take basics and see how far do you think technology has already been implemented in our lives without us knowing, or possibly where we actually know, participate, and willfully consent to machines taking over our decisions, right? when we look at it that way, you will realize that sometimes it can get pretty scary. Take, for example, movies. Again, lockdown has given us a lot of time to watch movies. So you are now, weaned away probably from your cable, right? You are now relying more on the new toys of online content that is available to you through aggregators like Netflix and Amazon, etc. They also, of course, have their own original content too. So you have been watching. Today you just felt like a light, fun, non-heavy kind of movie. You wanted a mindless comedy. You watched that today. Tomorrow, when you want to watch something very serious, maybe something that's won an award in one of these film festivals, what do you first notice when you open your platform, right? When you sign in, the first thing you'll notice is movies recommended for you. So the AI has already kicked in and it tells you what kind of movies you are probably likely to enjoy. It is the same whether it's a book or any other kind of shopping experience. So when we talked about data collection, when we talked about AI and its learning and natural language processing, etc., all of it led to predictive profiling, right? We are now legitimizing profiling to a large extent. If you look at the provisions that are there in the proposed Personal Data Protection Bill of 2019, you will see provisions which allow for profiling, which allow for, predictive analytics about your behavioral conduct and implementing it for commercial purpose. And we will, through this session, look at various angles where such prediction can land you in serious harm. A lot of it you already know about, right? Jumping forward, if I were to take these predictions from just what I drink, as a coffee, where, I do a drive-in into let's say a McDonald's, and already my system tells me what my favorites are and what my orders should be. You have a screen that pops up and it's already having your purchase history, and it will tell you what you want to drink. Of course, there is one aspect of it which has nothing to do with law, just it's a matter of concern at a very basic level, which is you have stopped being adventurous. You have stopped trying out new things. You're being told what you like, and it just becomes a very easy choice to follow. And before you know it, you have forgotten how to choose. It's a form of social engineering which can cut to the very root of your existence, where, we've already seen these systems, right? We talk about how today, even educational system is not about telling you what is right and wrong, but by guiding you to understand what is right and wrong and for you to own your decision and implement. So in my introduction, there was a mention about my mediation training. And I can draw a parallel from there and I can tell you, in mediation, we don't tell the parties what they should decide, how they should find their solutions, how they should resolve their problems. We guide them so that they can evolve their solutions, own it, and therefore implement it. But today, those kind of choices are being taken away. You're being told what you like, and probably you will just keep following, and after some time, you've forgotten that you possibly like something else. And here is the other problem. Now, all of these systems were predicated on individual entertainment, quotient, right? In predicting what you as an individual may want. But your choices are going to be available to the next person who signs in, which may not be you. So you do not know whether the child in your home is watching adult content instead of what they are allowed to see. Because the predictive analytics in your program platform is predicting for you, but who the person who is viewing may be someone different. It cannot control who is viewing your choices. So if you notice a change that has happened recently, most of these platforms, I'm assuming all, have introduced these boxes, which will ask you, are you Nappinai or are you somebody else? Right? You have Nappinai, you have guests, you have others or kids, and 4 choices or sometimes 3 choices. The funny element there is you can choose what you want. There is no restraint in terms of your choice. So nothing stops your child from choosing the adult's name. So what is put forth as a protective or preventive measure is not really something that works. So I call this the safety net syndrome. Because, when you are asked to jump off a building, your choice is between being consumed by fire or by falling to your death. Right? You assume, and somebody tells you, look, there is a safety net we are holding, so trust us and jump. So you will jump, assuming that you may be safe. If they catch you, good for you. If not, you just go straight. Right? So that's how it seems to be, where a kind of a two-tier process is introduced to make you first sign in and then to sign in as so-and-so, so that the prediction is for you. But there is nothing that stops you from accessing somebody else's. As a user experience, I would say that introducing all these various boxes may not necessarily help me. It may in fact spoil user experience because you have to wait that much longer for connectivity to work. And that brings me to the next aspect or the risk that we run with respect to innovation and technologies and where it is leading us. That's something foolish that Musk has mentioned. We always assume that privacy has its worst enemy in surveillance. It may not necessarily be so, right? Because where and when and why and how are we giving up our privacy? We give it up when something is offered for free, a favorite 4-letter word, when it is convenient for us, because who wants to go and sign in? If we can keep something open all the time, it is available for our use all the time. Isn't that much more interesting? Isn't that much more convenient for us than to have to sign in, let's say, with a trigger word, right? You must have read about how intrusive your digital assistants could be and have been, right? You just wanted convenience over privacy and you kept it on always. You chose always on. And for those people who chose always on and yet had their digital assistants in the privacy of their rooms, in private parts of their homes, firstly in their homes and then in private parts of their homes, it must have been seriously shocking to find out that all these digital assistants, it could be an Amazon Echo, it could be Google, it could be Google's assistant, it doesn't matter. All of them were listening in on you on your private moments. Therefore, that kind of clinches the proposition that convenience is probably a much more dangerous enemy to privacy than surveillance also. I'm not for a moment saying that surveillance is not a danger. We are seeing the risks that we are running with these kind of unregulated use of facial recognition technologies and other intrusive technologies. One of my deep concerns with COVID also is this. We learnt a lot about privacy. I mean, like, I'm really excited when I see people around me, non-lawyers, right, who have learned and understood the importance of privacy with their increased usage of online presence. But at the same time, they also threw caution to the winds a lot more because of this reliance on technology, where they started just thinking it is more convenient to use ABCD. Now, that convenience part we addressed. But there is the second part in terms of, again, we bring in the social engineering aspect, where we are now already used to downloading something, an app which we may not want or did not want or opposed its imposition. We are told it's optional, but it is not. If you want to enter an airport, you need the app, right? And then you do not have control over what it is collecting. And you are still subjecting yourself to various other forms of intrusive surveillance. The last straw is you're subjecting yourself to it voluntarily and thanking the person who is imposing it for imposing it. Because, you know, there is this discussion. Sorry? Am I audible?
Yeah, ma'am, you are audible. Somebody's mic probably got unmuted.
Okay.
You are audible. Please continue, ma'am. Please
Telling
continue.
me that I was not audible. Yeah. So you have a situation where we are thanking the persons who are intruding on our privacy, and that worries me a lot. That we have gotten used to giving up our liberties. Our mental framework has changed substantially, where we have become a little intolerant against persons who express concern over this kind of intrusion on liberties. And we have again moved mentally from protection to protectionism. And that's why I use that extreme example of this movie AI, you know, where the machines think that locking you up and keeping you safe is better. And now you can see how fiction is not that far from fact. To a large extent, we are now moving towards a situation where fiction is probably becoming reality. And that is something that is deeply concerning. When we do not understand where and how the lines are drawn with respect to privacy. And therefore, the first thing that any kind of responsible, any laws or regulations for responsible technology would have to mandate would be in terms of how your data is being collected, used, and, you know, to what extent can it be retained or shared. And there comes the personal data protection laws that become very important for any form of emerging technologies to be regulated. We are still awaiting it, and we still have to see to what extent we are going to be protected, considering there is a kind of legitimacy stamp that this PDP bill of 2019 may give to profiling itself. The worrisome aspect of it is there is a very clear mandate against profiling of children. I did start off saying the worrisome aspect. You did not hear me wrong. Why would I say worrisome aspect when I'm still saying there is a clear mandate for restraint on profiling of children? The problem is the restraint is limited to a smaller set of entities which probably are identified as collecting the maximum content. According to me, limiting the kind of entities which are prohibited from profiling children is not enough. It should have been across the board. I am extremely uncomfortable with the use of the word profiling, even for adults. But to allow for it by some people and restrict it completely for others, I do not think is permissible when it comes to children. And that's why I started off by saying by missing time. So that there are a lot of issues in terms of the data protection laws. Today, we are also looking at a possible further delay because the Joint Parliamentary Committee, which is looking into the data protection law, has voiced its concern or voiced its intent of introducing non-personal data legislation along with personal data legislation, which means that the draft will have to go back to the drafting board. So we have to wait and see whether this is an exercise which has already been done and therefore is just waiting to be adapted, or we are going to go back to the drawing board and it's going to delay our personal data protection also. Something that we have already delayed for nearly 25 years. Moving on to AI ethics and or any form of innovation and ethics. We have to understand that, and that's why I started off with the profiling aspect. Where does this profiling take you? It takes you to predictive analytics. When it is applied for movies and books, it's still reasonably harmless. It may still not impact us the way we would see it in our practical life. It's just entertainment is what we may believe. I can tell you some very scary stories of how this predictive analytics led children to watch all, and because we are not just talking about a Netflix or Amazon Prime, we are talking about YouTube and a lot of other online content also. So where a device is shared by an adult and a child, the kind of content the child ended up getting exposed to was not funny. It was very scary. You have a lot of jurisdictions where, for instance, pornography may be legal. In India, viewing pornography is not an offense. Disseminating pornography in any form is an offense, right? So therefore, if you have, by perchance, even opened by mistake, a site which may have content which is sexually explicit, chances that a predictive program will guide you back there are high. And these are all serious concerns which need to be addressed. But we are not on that. Let's move on to larger issues we were just talking about in terms of how can it affect. Would you believe that predictions can decide how much loans you can get? Would you believe, for instance, let me take the larger picture. Would you believe that it can lead you to penury? That it can actually encourage poverty? It would, look at this possibility of a program encouraging or keeping people below the poverty line there. Let's keep them within that box. Let's only extend loans to people who are in a position to be able to repay them. So what exactly would happen when you're using a predictive program to decide whether somebody has a good credit score and therefore is the low risk for extending a loan? You would effectively keep the poor poor or make them poorer and make the rich richer, right? It's a natural consequence. And if you think again, this is yet another story from a movie or a book. It is not. This is reality, which has already happened. So there is a very interesting scam that was written about in an article recently. And this was from the US, where the lady is being encouraged by her partner and thereafter her husband to improve her credit rating. So he ensures that her credit rating improves. And then through that starts expanding her exposure to financial loans and financial products, right? And then one day the house of cards collapses, pun intended, right? And what emerges out of the story is that this person has been playing, the system, and he was creating and improving the credit rating score consciously by keeping everything high, and then slowly but surely ensuring that the systems will read the data as a good credit score and encourage loans to be given to them, and then take all the money and run. So this is a reality story. And the flip side of it, as I was telling you, is the bias aspect, which can keep the poor or poorer. So these are larger concerns. We used to talk about bias in terms of how AI could not recognize or did not recognize, activities. You put a woman in front of a microwave and ask it to recognize it, it would recognize it as a woman, or in front of a gas stove. You put woman in front of a car, it recognizes it as a male, right? So those are all biases which have crept in from a misogynistic creator probably. But when you talk about these kind of biases which are intrinsic to the system itself, it cuts to the root of the very basis for this predictive analysis. Then it becomes a social issue and not an individual issue of bias. Similarly, US has already started experimenting with use of predictive policing and predictive sentencing. So you have the police using predictive analytics to decide who may violate the law. Very reminiscent of Minority Report, right? Well, I think you already know, I love my entertainment. I love my movies, books, music, everything. In fact, you will see a lot of that in my book also. I've tried to permeate all these interests into that too. But there is no better way to understand a concern or an issue than visual recall, or by being able to, relate to it through a story, etc. Right? So, Minority Report is becoming a reality today. And where do we stand in understanding how far liberties will be affected through these predictive policing tactics? You extend the same to predictive sentencing. ProPublica has already published a report very clearly setting out that these kind of predictive sentencing tools are biased. They are biased again in a racial manner. They do assume automatically that an African American is likely to commit a crime more often than a Caucasian, right? And in this predictive analysis, the outcome is based on this predictive analysis. The judges are supposed to decide what the sentence of this person is supposed to be. So you can imagine the kind of harm such predictive tools can cause when they have such inherent bias. So we have a lot of concerns in terms of how technology is evolved, how innovation can be encouraged but without it causing harm. So we need to choose even use cases or applications carefully. And that brings me to this aspect of liability. Now, when we talk about the predictive sentencing aspect also, curiously, the US courts upheld this use of this tool as a constitutional process, but added a qualifier, saying that there has to be a human element attached to its usage, meaning the tool can predict. You look at the prediction, but you apply your own rationale as a judge in deciding. The fact that the looking at of the outcome on the of the program can possibly cause bias in the mind of the judge seems to have been glossed over. But anyway, this is the decision. the last part of it is what I want to bring in to emphasize this construct of liability, right? Of the human oversight. I always equate this with our Indian signals, We have our signals on our board, which will tell you when to pause, to stop, and to start. But all those three lights are not enough for us to follow it. You also need a policeman to stand at the signal and to scare you and stop you from violating it or catch you if you violate it. Right? So effectively, what the US decision did was to bring in this concept of a policeman for the signal. So you can use technology, but you must have a human element attached to it. This is effectively what it said. And it has also been implemented in a decision in the US. You must have heard of the Tesla car crash. Whenever we talk about automation, this is the aspect that comes up first, right? And why did it happen? The car was on autopilot. A truck which is white crosses. The AI autopilot did not recognize the color. It merged with the horizon or the sun probably. The car crashes, right? The driver of the car was held liable in that case, not the manufacturer. And what was the reason? The reason was that there was an assumption drawn in terms of liability to say that it is for the driver to monitor the use of automation. So when you have a self-driving car, I remember one of the earliest videos we've seen of a Nissan car, self-driving car, where the Japanese premier is getting into it and he asks, so who takes the driving test, right? So you now have a situation where somebody tells you, you will have a self-driving car. You don't need to put your hands on the wheels at all. You can even sit back and relax and read a book. But you can't. Because now what you're being told is, it will drive for you, but you have to keep watching. You have to know when to take control, when to reprise control back from the machine to the man. And interestingly, now there is also an approach for a special driving license for automated cars, where they want to introduce this process of you learning how to drive or possibly not drive the automated car, and you have a special license for the same. See how law also keeps evolving in terms of technology and as it sees a problem. Many times I'm asked, why does law only have to follow? Should it not be ahead of the curve? In some instances, one could possibly assume it would be, but the way it can be is not to predict what is the kind of technology that will come up and be ready with the law to do. Law in an anticipatory process is actually dynamism. It has to be drafted in such a way that it is dynamic enough to be applied for future probabilities, which there was no way of assuming that it would come up at the time when the law is drafted. I always use this example of the definition of document for this, where the definition which was drafted more than 100 years back, where we did not have electronic documents, we did not have many forms of document creation, which we have seen over time, like, from handwritten to typewritten to a digital typewriter to computers, etc. We are still having a lot dynamic enough to adapt to emerging technologies. So today you have laws from across the world which tell you how to drive, and Germany, for instance, explains not only in terms of how an automated system should be built, an automatic car. It not just talks about, non-discrimination, which is an important aspect of responsible technology. It talks about who that non-discrimination should choose. between human to human. It talks about not just human to inanimate object, choose inanimate object. Human to animal, choose animal, which is very sad. I'm an animal lover, which is, but then that's the way the choice flows. And this is the interesting part. Human to human, how do you choose? It doesn't tell you whom to choose. It tells you how it should not choose specifically. Because when they did their test, they also found out that between human to human, there was a choice being made, bias coming in terms of choosing on the basis of racism, color, choosing on the basis of gender, right? So you cannot have discriminatory choice given to a machine. So it says it should choose in a non-discriminate manner. So this is the kind of tough system that you're likely to come into when we are talking about innovation and technology and those being enabled by law. Is it really an impediment? According to me, not really. I started off with a brief mention about India and policies, and I wanted to circle back to it to close out today's discussion. We talked about a lot of things in terms of transparency, accountability, or liability aspect, privacy, right? And we now have a few more concepts that have been brought into the Niti Aayog report on AI. It talks about OpenAI. It talks about, the opening the black box and going behind the system to see how it functions, and thinks that could be one possibility for removing bias. It talks about fairness and equitable application of AI, like how Germany talks about non-discrimination. And the most important aspect, which I felt, two, I would say, one is it also talks about reviewing the intellectual property laws of India in deciding what should be the additional protections that should be given for ensuring the protection of innovation by the technocrats. Right? That's a very interesting move because we have robust IPR laws, but there is no such thing as complete, and therefore reviewing the same, and also if you tie that in with the fact that India has now signed up for WTO and etc., you would see that it would be a positive move. But interestingly, whilst it recognizes this as a necessity, in its recommendations, this aspect doesn't come. In the recommendation, there is only one aspect in terms of law that comes in, which is with respect to liability. And again, I find that to be deeply concerning because it talks about apportioning liability. It wants to convert joint and several liability to proportionate liability. So if you take the Tesla example, and that's why I closed out with that, we may have a situation here also where an automated vehicle or any form of use of automation, which may result in harm or damage, may not necessarily result in the manufacturer being held liable, but the user being made liable. We may also see a situation where the manufacturer per se, the disclosed principle not just being held liable, but also people behind the scene being made liable. For instance, you may have to evaluate whether this is going to lead to a situation of the manufacturer and the software developer, etc., being liable. As a user, otherwise, under existing laws, it would be the manufacturer as the person you have dealt with who would be made liable. There is an assumption in the policy document that existing laws are insufficient to meet the needs in this case, and particularly with respect to liability in terms of emerging technologies. May be right in some instances, but may not necessarily be the reason for substituting existing laws or jurisprudence completely, setting aside first principles, and assuming that you only need something totally new to deal with this situation. we may have to be really cautious, not only in terms of how responsibly we develop innovation, but also be cautious in terms of keeping a very sharp eye out on what are the kind of laws that are being evolved to meet this innovation requirement. So with this, I would like to close my address by just putting in a few cautionary tales. As an individual user, exercise caution. Do not throw caution to the winds, be it for the sake of free goods, be it for the sake of convenience, and even when it comes to surveillance. Please keep a strong eye out. Do not give up your liberties very easily. Do not assume that merely a promise of protection, a promise of safety is sufficient to override your individual rights and liberties. Any kind of restraint on your individual rights and liberties, as has been repeatedly reiterated by the Supreme Court, also in the privacy judgment in Swami in 2017, is the following: that any manner of removal of your liberties can and only be done with the reasonable restrictions that are incorporated into our constitution and in a proportionate manner. So even changes with respect to contractual laws on liability, as according to me, can have serious repercussions, including on your liberties or your usage of it. What the law believes is innovation, encouraging innovation, may actually scuttle it. Because if it becomes onerous for the user, then there is a possibility that adaptation may be low. We are facing a situation like digital payments, for instance, where the usage is thrust on us. We have seen this many times, including even direct-to-home entertainment, right? You move from XYZ, your regular Doordarshan, to cable TV, to whatever, and there was a phase where set-top boxes were forced on people, and curiously nobody protested. So today we are in a situation where digital payments are becoming the norm. And when you are adapting to that, you know that it comes with a lot of risks and concerns. If apportionment of liability is not done properly, it is going to lead to serious consequences, negative consequences in terms of this adaptation. And doing forcibly is not the right way in a democracy. So as an individual user, this is my advice: to be cautious in your usage. Balance the trade-off. Are you trading off more than you should for the sake of convenience? And is it something you should be careful about, right? As an innovator, be cautious. It's great that you want to innovate, and every innovator wants to be the first off the block. Every innovator wants to get their product out there as early as possible. But it cannot and should not be done without doing your security and safety checks, be it in terms of bias, transparency, fairness, etc., or simplicity security, which otherwise causes breaches and which in turn affects privacy, right? So you cannot innovate, you cannot get off the block early without ensuring these processes are in place. Dekha jaye, let's see, I started practice as a criminal lawyer, and we used to have this joke with us. We'd say that you're only a criminal when you're caught. So that seems to be also the assumption when you're innovating and you're rushing your products through and say, okay, only if something goes wrong, we have to worry about it. That's not the way it is. You need to worry about it and ensure nothing goes wrong. You can't worry about it after it goes wrong. So that's the short point in terms of the perspectives from the innovators. And finally, from a governance perspective, we need laws, we need regulations. They are just the brakes in our car, of innovation. But they are not obstacles. A brake is never an obstacle. It's a security measure. Just as what we are talking about, how innovators have to ensure security measures. Today, legislators, the government has to necessarily stay ahead of the curve and ensure these kind of security measures and not come in after something foolish has been done. So let's hope and look forward to a very balanced and an effective regulatory mechanism for India. And my hope is it's not going to be glacial. It won't take forever to come in. It will, however, be speedily implemented. Be it for data protection, be it for artificial intelligence, or for any of the other emerging technologies. And with that, I sign off by requesting yet again from all of you for responsible technology and responsible usage of the technology. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. An excellent session. Would you like to take few questions if at all participants have?
Sure.
Yeah. So anyone would like to ask a question? Ma'am is there. It's a good opportunity. Please go ahead. Anybody would like to ask the question?
Ma'am, there is a background noise at my place. So is it disturbing? I'll type it in chat, or is it fine?
It's fine.
It's fine. You can type it in chat or speak out.
You can.
Yeah, ma'am. Ma'am, so there are a lot of messages which have increased in this COVID period, which are fake messages, and they try to, the people get attracted towards it. They click on the link and lose all their data. So, are there laws related to this? And majorly, either youngsters or very old age people who are not aware of this fall prey to this. So, are there any awareness camps that happen?
Thank you so much. So, in fact, Cyber Saathi is the entire purpose of Cyber Saathi is this. So when I conceptualized Cyber Saathi, my whole idea was that you can't have a do's and don'ts list. You can't tell people. So, for instance, in my WhatsApp groups also, I keep constantly reminding people about how this is a fake news. Always check before you share. Or I would check and then post the message which will show that what they have shared is a fake message, etc. I can tell you in the last 8 months itself, there has been so much improvement by just telling people, just informing them what is the problem and what is a remedy you could avail of, right? And already now what has happened is when somebody posts something, someone else in the group checks and tells them that this is fake, do not share. Okay, so this is how it evolves. We talked about the reverse negative impact of social engineering. Here is a positive impact of it, where you can actually, by just information, by creating awareness as an individual, also create impact. So Cyber Saathi was meant to create peer mentors of everybody. The whole idea was, as long as we know what the threats and vulnerabilities are, we'll keep ourselves safe. God forbid, if we fall prey to these kind of situations like fake news, etc., and we lose money, then we'll know what the rights and remedies are. And we also need to know how to approach those rights and remedies and get recourse from law. And this is exactly what Cyber Saathi does. And what it also does is, it allows not only a person to protect themselves, but also help the others, the peer group. And that's why the word Saathi or friend, because I realized over these years of practice, whenever you fall in trouble, you would always reach out to a friend. That the friend may be a relative or an authority figure is only incidental. But you don't reach out to an authority figure directly. You will first reach out to a friend, and with the friend's help, reach out to an authority figure or a parent, right? So therefore, if you know as a friend better how to guide the victim, then you can also be a better friend, and therefore Cyber Saathi. You may wonder why the discussion went off into Cyber Saathi, but the question that you asked and the answer lies in that. So today, when you're talking about fake news, one aspect is that the law is there, and they're also evaluating further laws for fake news, the intersection of fake news with hate speech. But today you already have hate speech laws where, because of the circulation of fake news, enmity, ill will, harm to an individual, or a law and order situation is caused, etc., it can be invoked. You have a situation where if it is general fake news, then there may not be any harm. I mean, it's like an April Fool joke, there is no harm. But where, for instance, what happened during COVID? You had a PM Care Fund. So immediately the criminals piggybacked on that and created so many fake sites. And you can't, I mean, like there is an advisory from the government which tells you what to use and what not to use. But when you look at the advisory, it's more confusing because the advisory itself shows how similar the fake sites are. So how do you distinguish correct from wrong? And once you have distinguished it, how can you share and disseminate and create evidence of it? So again, I always tell people, that's why go to the official site, don't use a click-through. Don't use a link that comes in a message, because then you are at the worst, at the very least, you're downloading malware into your system. At the worst, you're being led into a site where you may end up losing money, right? The second aspect of it, fear. All of us are driven by fear. So you have a lot of uncertainty because of COVID. And so you want to know everything that's happening about COVID. So you want to download all kinds of apps or go to news sites. Most of these were spreading malware, right? So don't allow fear to rule. All your phishing attacks, your bank frauds, everything is predicated on fear. So be cautious and know when not to allow fear to rule. If you have, again, this is a combination of fear and convenience. If you don't do your KYC, your system will be blocked. So you don't, and you have to go to the bank to get it activated. You have to write to the digital wallet provider to activate it. It will take 3 days. You don't want to wait 3 days, so you end up doing something wrong, right? So don't allow convenience to rule. Exercise caution, exercise logic you would in the physical world for the virtual world, and you can keep yourself safe. So there were a lot of elements in your question that's like, I can give a full session on that, but for paucity of time, I'll pause here with just this one message of caution. And you will get a lot of information through FAQs, case studies, and research papers on Cyber Saathi. You may want to just visit and read it at cybersaathi.org. Right?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, there's a question in chat box that talks about that. Just I'll read it. With the mobile apps, online fraudulent increased through reputed website customer care executives. They are simply calling to pay the online officially. How one know that this is a fake person or a real person? Because calling from an official website.
I'm absolutely correct. In fact, in one session, I started off with this conversation, between a bank representative and me, and it actually happened. They call you, and then they'll say, we have to do your verification. And then they'll ask you for your date of birth and other details. And it is a genuine call from the bank. And I was giving him literally a lecture by saying, if you people do this, you are socially engineering me to answer automatically. And then you hold me liable if I fall prey to a phishing. Again, today we can't change the banks. We can't change the official representatives. They are given a script and they go by that. So we can, however, be a lot more cautious. So for instance, if a person calls you to do a verification and then says we have to do a verification before we share whatever, you may not even need the message. You can always ask them, what is the message? And you first tell me what is this. Otherwise, I always answer these kind of calls by saying that I will speak to my relationship manager and get the details. Thank you very much. But you may or may not want to do that. Even assuming you indulge, again, take a call on what is going to harm you and what is not. If you're going to do something like, the very basic is sharing OTP. Obviously, you cannot share OTP. The other thing I've already told you, don't use click through links. If somebody gives you a number to call on, do not call that, because you are calling somebody in. You do not know whom the call is going to. It's really becoming amazing, the way criminals are innovating. You're not just dealing with bank frauds, you're not just dealing with credit card or debit card or digital wallet frauds. One of the recent cases I handled was with respect to a mutual fund fraud. And in this case, the victim did fall prey again because of convenience, right? And fear. There was a thing which was, he was misled to believe that if he didn't do his KYC, his entire savings will go and only 10% will remain. So when there is fear of loss of money, he ended up actually losing money. But I can tell you this, and this is something I want all of you to follow. When he reached out, he was feeling ashamed as a patriarch of the family he had fallen prey. So this shame, this stigma that a victim carries is what a criminal uses. So don't allow that to override your sensibility. Please file a complaint. Here, he reached out and said, I don't want to do anything, but I want to still know. And this was a reach out through Cyber Saathi. And then whilst we were giving advice on what is the procedure to go about it, it so happened that this criminal called again for more money, right? And then we were able to file the complaint and set a trap and catch the criminal. And I'm telling you something that happened just a couple of weeks back. So law can be a very effective tool to use. If you use it, you have a 50-50 chance. Why not take it? Life doesn't give you a better chance than that, right? So take that chance and try your luck. If it works, good for you. If it doesn't, at least there is some fear put in the minds of the person, right? The system at least knows that a crime like this has been committed. The second important aspect is you could stop others falling victim. So it's important from both aspects that you take action. Exercise caution. Know what is it that you can share, even if it is with the official person, and draw your lines there so that you're keeping yourself safe out of it.
Thank you, madam, for that answer. Because of time limit, we will take a last question, which probably I would like to ask. As a technocrat, let us say we develop a solution, but we are not supposed to know all the do's and don'ts of laws. And finally, it goes to the hands of a user, and user has not used it the way it has been intended to use it. And finally, something happens. So liability is to whom? To user or to the designer? Or to the manufacturer or to the distributor?
Very important question. Thank you for this. And before I answer that, I've just put the website on the chat box, cybercrime.gov.in. That's an online platform where you can file complaints pertaining to cybercrime. Okay? From any kind of cybercrime, you can file your complaints there. It's a very, very important and useful tool. So I've just put that on the chat box because I thought it would be relevant and useful for everyone. Now, let's just address your question with an illustration. If you remember, some of those earliest Android phones came with some of the coolest apps, right? So it actually takes us to the Grokster and Napster cases where photocopying, right? Xerox machines were used for violating IPM. So the whole issue was whether a Xerox machine can be held liable for committing this violation. In the first instance, it was held no, because it was meant to photocopy, not to violate somebody's copyright. And there is no control of the developer over what use a particular machine is being put to. But in the Napster case, it changed contours in a way where the liability angle was put in a slightly different form to say that if you knew of this possibility of abuse, you cannot escape liability to that extent, right? So there is never, like the good thing about law is there is no yes or no answer. That's why lawyers become relevant. The bad thing about law is there is no yes or no answer. So everything is very nuanced, but it's actually, according to me, it's a good thing because the facts of each case the mode and manner of abuse and the outcomes will dictate who will be held liable. So the reason I mentioned these early day Android phones is there were these very interesting apps which were there, which could probably be used for pranks. So you could input, let me take an example of Oxox, for instance, right? You can put anybody's phone number in it and call someone else, and the number that will be flashed on their screen will be of the number you input, but not your phone number. So you can prank somebody into thinking that XYZ is calling them instead of me, right? The same thing, just think of how it can be abused. To send a threat or to set up somebody as if someone else has sent the threat, or to do a million different kinds of financial frauds and cyber crimes. So when you're talking about abuse, chances are that abuse can be in forms which could not even have been anticipated by the developer. So to say that you have to protect from not only known uses, but also unknown uses would be disproportionate. So that's why I mentioned about the constitutional principles also. We cannot shy away from that. You can't hold somebody liable for something which they could not have even predicted or controlled, right? But where something can be and is obviously open for abuse, and if you still encourage that, then you could possibly land up also becoming part of litigations.
Thanks, ma'am. Thank you very much for elaborative answer. Ma'am, your session was so interesting that I think it should go on. And so many new things you have told us and enlightening things. I was simply noting down. I don't have time to summarize, unfortunately. I can only say that the important points which you have said, that something which is free, something which is we look at it as a convenient, we need to think about it once again while clicking that link. And I'm happy to know from you that laws are keeping the pace with the technology. They are also evolving. It's really delighted to know that. And laws are not becoming the obstacles in the innovation. That is also an interesting thing, because we used to always think that why we have been restricted by the IPR or the laws. But you have thrown a very good light onto that. Laws are not obstacles. Like they are like a brakes in the car. Very, very interesting things to know, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am, for all of this. Renuka, ma'am, maybe have a ma'am's this is a virtual memento, ma'am, from us.
Thank you.
Kindly accept it. Our principal sir is saying something. Yeah, sir,
Thank you, madam, for wonderful insight and wonderful talk. And I really appreciate your comments, your perception, and you are living the law. And very rightly you said laws are enablers rather than the obstacles. And those are like a brakes, brakes give you opportunity to accelerate. Because without brakes we won't move, and we will not drive. So brakes are there. I mean, we accelerate or we accelerate the speed because we know there are brakes to protect, right? And I wish, but as a common citizen, sometimes we feel overbraking also is a dangerous, and sometimes skidding takes place or some accident happened due to the application of the brake. I wish this AI and all avoid such accidents, and let the law let the development in the law and all take us to the next level as a society. Thank you so much, madam, for your wonderful insight.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am, for sparing your valuable time. You are the advocate of Supreme Court. I can understand how much busy you are, and still you have taken the time and freely you spoke with us. Really, thank you very much, ma'am. And now,
Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, ma'am. Now, next speaker will be Subramaniam Vutha, sir. So, if you would like to remain connected, you can, or please you can proceed. So, Subramaniam, sir, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Yeah, sir. Okay. So now we have the next session by Mr. Subramaniam Vutha, sir. I'm pleased to introduce sir. Sir, we had a very interesting session from ma'am. You were also joined from the morning. You were listening. So probably you may not get so much time to speak because of our time deadlines. But very honored to have you again over here. And it is my pleasure and I'm delighted to introduce you to the participants. So participants, Mr. Subramaniam Vutha is an advocate and founder member of Technology Law Forum, and he is an ACS at the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. He is having specialized legal consulting in the areas of IT transactions and complex IT contracts, IPR frameworks, policies, strategies, processes, guidelines, checklists, training, licensing consultancy, valuation of technology business. He is also legal consulting in e-commerce laws. He has over 20 years of experience in negotiating and drafting commercial contracts, complex systems, integration contracts, outsourcing contracts, licensing agreements, etc. He is experienced in technology transfers, intellectual property issues. Sir advised a global leader in banking solutions from India on corporate IPR frameworks. He's a consultant to some of the leading companies on IPR management, like IPR policies, processes, guidelines, checklists, training, etc. He's the founder president of Technology Law Forum, a multidisciplinary forum of lawyers, technologists, business executives, in-house counsel, finance professionals, and others that seeks to build bridges between the technology and law. He's featured speaker at various key conferences of lawyers, academicians, professional bodies, and alike on e-commerce and IPR matters. He's a co-author of a section in the LES International publication, Licensing Best Practices, Strategic, Territorial, and Technology Issues. He's past president of Licensing Executives Society, India. He's a member of International Technology Law Association, USA. Sir is member of advisory board of the erstwhile publication of BNE International INC London World Internet Law Report. Sir, I welcome you at Bharati Vidya Bhavan Sardar Patel Institute of Technology, and in particularly for this faculty development program. Myself and our participants are eagerly waiting for your words. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Surendra Rathod. I mean, I must really commend and appreciate what you are doing. Professor Principal Chaudhary mentioned that we have to, remove the silos between art, science, engineering, economics, and so on. A small thing we are trying to do in Technology Law Forum by bringing technology and law together. But those words from the respected principal himself were, music to our ears. And I'm very happy you started with Ms. Nappinai, who's a renowned speaker on, and one of the brightest stars in the area of cyber law and cyber technology and so on. She's a very remarkable person. So it's a very great start, and I sat through the whole thing. It was amazing. As usual, of course, I've heard her before, and she's been an old colleague and one of the founders of Technology Law Forum. So she's so my topic would be how technologists and technology teachers can help reshape the legal ecosystem. Now, this may surprise you because you may wonder, what have we got to do with law? We don't understand law, but we are supposed to reshape the law. How does it happen? And that is the whole purpose of the Technology Law Forum. So, long ago, one Mr. John Perry Barlow, you can probably heard of him as technology teachers. He said, he made what is called the Declaration of Independence of the Internet. He said, the Internet will be free from the lawmaking and the stifling rules of the governments of the world, because the Internet is free, there are no borders, and so on. Of course, he was a very brilliant man, and I'm sure he anticipated that the Internet will be regulated, and most technologies that you see here on the list are some way connected with the Internet. Even if it's a connected car, it is made possible only because of the Internet. Every one of these things that you see here, which technologies, UAV, drones, AI, intelligence augmented, machine learning, 5G, IoT, AR, VR, 3D printing, and all of these are related in some way or the other or based upon the internet. So without the internet, we would not have all these new technologies. For some reason, there is a convergence of several technologies, and many things which are on the slow boil are coming to the slow burner are coming to a boil now. So I think the next few years hold tremendous opportunities for a country like India with so many brilliant engineers and so many wonderful technology institutions like yours. So let issues. Technology will impact work for sure. Technology already impacts social interaction. Earlier you visited people, now you talk to, chat with them on Facebook or WhatsApp. So what is actually happening is that has also become a business, social interaction. You never had lawsuits when you visited people or shared time with anyone else. But when you use social, tools, internet-based tools for social interaction, you have lawsuits because that has become business. WhatsApp is a business. It's not for. It's not like Sarvajanik Ganeshotsav. No, it's a business. So is Facebook. So is all of the. So are many of those things that we see now. They are all businesses, and therefore the law steps in even into social interaction. And finally, if you look at entertainment, days when you played with your friends. And so on. Sport is a big business. Everyone wants to make money out of sport, and therefore, when you have specialization called sports law, and therefore, this is how things are progressing, whether for good or for bad. And so we look at some of these things. Take business models. Look at OAO and so on. These business models are made possible only because of technology. But these business models also make it important to have regulatory issues. For example, if you take Ola, is their surge pricing, defensible? Should there be someday a regulator for, say, autonomous cars? And the law will have to step into business models. Some of these business models are also causing monopoly concerns, and that also would be an issue which will be looked into by the law. But the important thing to remember is that the law cannot be shaped in the future by lawyers or legal scholars alone. We strongly feel in Technology Law Forum that we will have to take not just inputs from technology visionaries and technology advisors and technology teachers and technology academicians. We'll have to involve you in shaping the law, because not only can technical people, technical visionaries, help address the challenges that new laws will present to the legal ecosystem, new technologies will present to the legal ecosystem, but it will also help us improve. For example, today you have already seen, hearings held on Zoom and so on. So, but that's only the beginning. Can you just imagine what can happen if technology is used to address all the issues of, say, pending legal cases and so on? Lots of things can be done using AI and other means. So take product liability issues. You already discussed that. Nappinai gave her answer, which is wonderful, about what happens when you create something and is misused or wrongly used, not as per instruction by someone, an app is used and there is a legal issue. She has already answered that, so I won't get into that. Take tort liabilities. A day will come, perhaps, and this was predicted more than 20 years ago by a renowned author, that let's say you do not use antivirus on your computer. And you just don't bother too much because you are able to fix things quite easily. Let's say that because your computer is infected, the infection, the virus spreads to various other computers of your friends or your partners or your clients or whatever else. Can they sue you? Because you did not exercise the duty of care, which you knew could help spread viruses to others and bring their work to a standstill. These are questions that will be answered in due course, but we can foresee that these things could happen. Take the environment. E-waste will be a huge issue. Today it's already a very, very huge issue. Consider that when we have IoT and devices everywhere, lurking everywhere in homes, in factories, in pipelines, and so on. Look at the number of devices that will be out there. Billions and billions of devices which will be frequently replaced. What happens to the environment? So environment law will be impacted by technology, and technology will have to find solutions, and the law will have to find solutions. Human safety is a very important thing, and human safety can be endangered by technology if it's not properly used or properly developed, and so on. So human safety issues also, the law and the legal ecosystem will have to take help from technologists and experts like you. I already talked about competition law. I won't talk about it again. Someone mentioned earlier intellectual property rights. Yes, these are going to be extremely important for India. Just think about it. 81% of the patents filed in India are filed by foreigners. Only 19% of the patents filed in India are filed by Indians and Indian companies. This is not the best thing to happen for a country. We have so many engineers, so many engineering colleges. Why do we allow that to happen? It should be the reverse. 81% of patents filed in India should be by Indian engineers, Indian companies. And we should, otherwise, you see, our freedom to operate in our own country could be at risk. There's another very important thing that I want to point out, and that is technology standards. You know, long ago, a Washington lawyer once told me, and he asked me a question. The question was, Money, and my nickname is Money. He said, Money, what is the golden rule? I said, the golden rule is to treat others as you would like them to treat you. So that is a golden rule which I learned in school. He said, no, no, Money, that is not the golden rule. The golden rule is he who makes the rules keeps the gold. I'll repeat that. He who makes the rules keeps the gold. What does it mean? It means that if you make the rules, you have a tremendous advantage over those who just follow the rules. Look at what is happening today. What has the West outsourced to India? Code writing, answering calls, back office functions, and so on, which are important, of course. What have we outsourced to them? Intellectual property rights, how they are shaped. How are safety standards adopted? IEEE, ISO 27001, all the rules are made abroad. We merely follow them. In technology standards, there's something called, you take 1M2M, for example. 1M2M determines, say, IoT middleware standards. What does it mean for India? It means that the standards will be shaped in such a way that the patents held by companies abroad will benefit immensely. Very few, if at all, or no Indian company will have what is called a standard essential patent. What does that mean for us? It means huge outflow of technology royalties from India and no ability to shape or influence how technology should develop going forward. These are very serious things. This cannot be done only by lawyers and the legal ecosystem. We have to have threats already have been. But let me give you one. For some reason, because of some tinkering with the software, any credit to any 459 rupees were being credited to someone's account. Only 406 rupees will be credited and 0.59 would go to some other account. Similarly, it happened for every other, credit to any account in the bank. This paise amounted to several million rupees, but no one complained because it was only a few paise, many people didn't notice. Those who noticed said, oh, it must be some error. It's all right. I mean, I'm not going to write to the bank for 49 paise, but it was a micro fraud. So, it was detected only because the IT department found out that there has been some tampering with the software program. National security and intelligence. Just imagine what happens in 5G is here, and you have intelligent devices, you have IoT, you have drones, drones used in the army, drones used in intelligence, and so on, along the border with China, along the border with Pakistan. National security, intelligence, collection of military intelligence, all will be severely affected by technology. And you can already see small countries like Israel are global leaders in this area. It is very important that India applies its mind to these issues and also understands that when you buy security devices from other countries, are they really secure from our point of view? These are very serious concerns because we'll have what is called a technology infrastructure. You see, the technology infrastructure will ultimately become more important than the physical. And the roads will become more remotely. These can be attacked and these can be brought to a standstill, therefore thereby bringing our economy to a standstill. Let's talk a little about data protection and privacy. Country we treat this as the same, but this is not true. Okay, data protection is protection of your data, your KYC data, for example. Privacy can also extend to physical privacy. For many years, Indian courts have been addressing physical privacy because, for example, we had this parda nishi women. No, women were supposed to be under parda and so on, and their privacy was much respected and still is. So there is a case in which a court did not allow the owner of an adjoining building to create a new balcony and a new window because it overlooks the courtyard of the adjoining building where the women of that house who used to sit after a bath. So the court did not allow them to open another window. Why? Because human privacy or physical privacy is seen as very important in India. This is a very old Indian case, long before cyber became a big issue. Internal security and law and order, huge issues again. Just come to think of it. Okay. Long ago, policemen were told to have a beat. What does a beat mean? Policemen were given certain roads on which they will keep walking up and down. Okay. That led to a drastic reduction in crime. Why? Because within a minute or 2 minutes or 5 minutes, a policeman will be walking by. So that was called a police beat. Today, the police beat is done in a jeep. You will see policemen going in a jeep or policewomen going in a jeep, slowly keeping an eye on what's happening on the street. That is a very great preventive measure. That will be replaced to a large extent by CCTVs. You see, let me give you a statistic. Every British resident, and these are old statistics, I'm talking of some 2004, is photographed at least 253 times a day. Why is that? Because when they go to ATM, there's a CCTV. To a bank, there's a CCTV. To a post office, there is CCTV. To a parking lot, there's a CCTV. To a office, there's a CCTV. There are CCTVs everywhere. So there was an article in The Economist, a cover story which said, privacy is dead. Okay? Privacy is already dead. So make no mistake about it. Technology has to. So therefore, we have to think very seriously about it. We have talked about drones. What about rogue drones? What happens if a drone is used by criminals? What are the issues, legal issues, and so on. Then take the mobile cameras. Okay, today someone eats something sitting in, say, Ambala in Punjab, or even more, say, in Kampala in Uganda. He wants to tell his friends, I'm eating this with my friend here, and there is no privacy. He himself gives up his, or she herself gives up her privacy. She wants everyone to know on Facebook. I always say what you disclose at 17, you'll regret at 27. What you disclose at 27, you'll regret at 35 or 50, because you will feel very foolish saying that I did all these things, and it's on a permanent record. This is one attic which will never get full. So it's a very dangerous thing. Second thing is we talked of informed consent in terms of privacy. You say, I give my consent. for you to store my data or to share my data and so on. What is informed about it? I doubt if anyone reads the terms and conditions of the privacy policy before saying, yes, I agree. Assuming that you read it, you may not understand it. Assuming that you understand it, you may not understand it fully. So these are very serious issues. So behavioral changes have to come. Therefore, in Technology Law Forum, we are thinking of introducing even social scientists. As Professor Chaudhary said, we have to bring together experts from every field. Otherwise, we can't solve the problem. But one of the benefits of doing that is that we can become global leaders in rule making. And we can keep the gold, as per the golden rule told to me by my lawyer friend in Washington. Okay? So there are various things that we have to think about. So let's some more things. Complex contracts, of course. Most engineers don't understand the contracts they sign. You know what happens in companies? They buy software. Let's say you buy it from SAP or you buy it from Oracle or IBM or anyone else for that matter. The terms and conditions run into a few hundred pages. There are use restrictions. While and technical performance, they don't look at the restrictions. They don't look at the licensing conditions. Then once it is signed, the people who actually use the software don't even know. So these people face claims that 200 user license. Now you are using it for 270 people or 420 people, buy 24 or 2 or more licenses. See, this is what companies are facing. I don't know whether a college faces such a problem, but definitely companies are facing such issues. So these are very, and they're very expensive software. Per seat, they cost a lot of money. Because people don't understand licensing terms and they don't simplify it for the engineer. This is what, millions of dollars are paid. Okay? What is data overload? Look at this. Let me give you an example. There is so much data. Data makes it possible, but data also makes it necessary. Come to think of it, without huge amounts of data, you can't have artificial intelligence. This is what my technical friends tell me. However, the necessity for artificial intelligence also becomes of too much data. Consider why so many cases are pending in court, because each party files thousands of pages in plaints, in affidavits and counter affidavits. Who will read all of them? Who will understand them? And how will you apply that to give a judgment? I think the problems that artificial intelligence or data has already created has to be solved by data scientists and people like you. So, I humbly request all of you to take active interest in these issues and to make sure that you, understand all these issues. I talked about tort issues. If you buy Vicks Formula 44 in India, there are only 2-3 disclaimers saying that, you should not take it when you are pregnant, you should not take it if you're operating machinery, you should not drive a car after taking it, you should not operate machinery. That's it. If you buy the same thing in New York, Vicks Formula 44, the disclaimers run into one side of the panel and all the inside panels. There are hundreds of disclaimers. Why? Because in that country, they get sued very often for product liability issues. Okay, so these are very important things. And next slide, sir. Next slide, Professor Rathod. Yeah. So the impact is on entertainment, impact is on payment systems, impact is on investment models, impact is on licensing of technologies, children and elderly. When I was a child, we didn't have a shop for spectacles, an optician in Matunga. We had to go to Dadar, 1.5 kilometers away to buy spectacles. Luckily, I didn't need it. Today in Matunga, where I stay, there are at least 14 opticians, 14 spectacle shops. See the impact on children's eyes. Okay, look at the impact on the elderly. EMR is a very serious issue. There is a group called the 5G group in Europe. I think Professor Rathod and all of you know about that group. They are saying very seriously, before you adopt 5G, think carefully about the implications. Please don't rush into it. They are talking about the impact on physical health because of EMR, electromagnetic radiation, and so on. They say we don't know enough. Please be careful before you introduce so much of EMR in houses and so on. Impact on mental health. Let me tell you, today you have something called lifestyle diseases. Why is that? Because we have become sedentary. We don't move. We have lifts, so we don't climb the stairs. We have cars, so we don't walk. We have scooters, so we don't run. So we have become physically weak. Imagine what will happen when artificial intelligence steps in. Surely it will have what, just like you have physical atrophy, atrophying of the muscles, you could have mental atrophy or atrophying of the mental faculties. I am 100% sure that someday some taught lawyers will take this issue up. Before that, and for the good of our own country and our people, we should think seriously about this. When, as Professor Chaudhary said, various streams work together in a multidisciplinary fashion, we'll be able to make good laws. We'll be able to make sure that, technology is used for the good well-being of human beings rather than as both, of course. Or usually it will do a lot of good. We'll look at what technology is into family structures. If 4 people have a mobile phone each in a family, they don't talk to each other. You know that. Look at international treaties. Look at defense and warfare. Drones are already being used in defense and in warfare. It will go on. The criminal procedure code will change. There may be no need for jails for under trials because there are other ways of geofencing them. So many things can be done if we apply technology and make a more humane and a more usable or more friendly legal system. I think I'll end here, except to share something that I discussed with Professor Rathod. And that was actually related to the fact that when an engineer develops something, say a refrigerator, there is complex machinery, there's a compressor and various other things, sensors or God knows what inside a refrigerator. How do you, as an engineer, design it? You engineer in such a way that although there's a lot of complex machinery behind it in a refrigerator or a car or a television or a microwave, you make it simple for the user. The user interface is usually so simple that the user simply knows he has to use a dial or a button. There are prompts. It makes it so simple. Why can't law and the legal system do the same thing, have friendly user interfaces so that those who have to face the law, either because they're getting into a transaction or because they're getting into legal dispute, why can't they make it easy for have GUIs, for those who don't understand the law? Because the complexity can be taken care of by the lawyers and the judges. But let it be simple. And it is possible, believe me, it is possible. It will be possible, but it will be possible only when Professor Rathod, Professor Principal Chaudhary, and all of you brilliant engineers and technology advisors and teachers, academicians, you take interest in this. I'm 100% sure that we can do something in India that the world will come to see. We should be doing this. I encourage you to stay in touch with Professor Rathod and through him with us in the Technology Law Forum. Professor Rathod, I don't think we should need to see the other slides now. We're already 5 minutes over time. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And I'm hoping there'll be questions because your thinking will always be better than mine when we are talking about technology. Over to you, Professor Rathod.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Participants, do you have any questions for sir? Sir, anyways, next speaker has not joined it. I have given her a time 11:45. So
okay.
We can take 5 minutes questions.
Yeah, if there are questions, that is fine. Otherwise,
So can I?
Yeah,
yes,
go ahead.
yes, please.
So you mentioned about IPRs. So how right now we are having IPR as elective in our university, and how can we encourage students to file their projects as IPRs, IPs?
Okay. Dr. Gag, very good question. Thank you. Now, I teach in companies. I teach company employees on intellectual property. Over the years, over more than, say, 18 years of teaching corporate executives, this is what I have discovered. Most employees who are managers or researchers or in the supply chain or in on the shop floor in the factory and so on, all of them are engineers. In some companies, even the HR people are engineers with MBAs. So it struck me that as a lawyer, however much I demystify IPR for engineers, maybe I'm not doing enough. Luckily for me, I had worked in IT companies where I was one lawyer and there were 2,000 plus engineers, brilliant engineers, mind you, who taught me so much about technology, to whom I'm very grateful. Okay, so some of them had retired. They were ex-CTO, CIO, people from IIT, IIM, IIT, Indian Institute of Science, so brilliant people like all of you. And so I said, why don't you please come and teach IPR? Because the audience is full of engineers. So these 5 or 6 people who joined me, they asked me, but Mani, how can we teach? We also don't know IPR. So we did a train the trainer program intensively for 3 days, morning to evening, breakfast, lunch, dinner together. They are my friends, so we had a good time. Then they did some small courses. What is a patent? Why should you patent? How is a patent useful? What happens if someone else owns the patents? What care should you take? Because someone else can also have a patent. In fact, most other people have the patent, we don't. Then what care should you take so that you don't fall into a trap and get sued by them? So such simple things they started teaching, and the way that these engineers taught the engineers was so brilliant. It was a huge success. People started filing more patents, but equally importantly, people started thinking, what should I do when my collaborator or my partner or my vendor or my supply chain has more patents than I have? What caution should I take? Even that they understood. So the number of the risk also came down, the benefits went up. I would be very happy to connect you with these 5 engineers. They are brilliant. They could teach in your college, and the way they teach is amazing. So what we did was we created courses called IPR in the supply chain, IPR and projects, IPR and software development, IPR and software architecture, IPR and artificial intelligence, IPR and so like that. So, it becomes very easily digestible by engineers and technologists. This was a huge success. Now we are going to create use cases because of my association with engineers. Although I'm a lawyer, I spend more time with engineers. I have been influenced and I'm ever grateful to them because they taught me how to use cases. And because you engineers like to reuse a solution or to repurpose a solution. And that's what I learned. And from these brilliant engineers, I can connect them with you. I'm 100% sure your students will do wonderfully, and students everywhere should listen to engineers. We should train senior engineers first. Maybe you should become a IPR trainer, madam. You will be a
Surely, sir.
brilliant teacher because you already know a lot about technology. Professor Rathod, of course, and many others of you. Yes, we should do this. We should do this
Surely,
for our
sir,
country.
please let us know the channel how to go through. We will surely like to do it.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Not at all, madam, not at all. One mail from Professor Rathod will do anything because he's a great source of inspiration for us.
Thank you, Professor Subramaniam. Wonderful, really wonderful talk, and it was a great learning. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And namaskar to everyone.
Any other question? Anybody would like to have any?
Namaskar, namaskar.
Renuka ma'am. So I think there are no more questions, sir. Thank you very much for this speech, and there was an eye-opening, particularly for me, that in India, 81% patents are filed by foreign companies and only 19 by Indian companies. It was really an eye-opener, at least for me. And then you also said about the golden rule: he who makes the rules keeps the gold. Very interesting aspect, very interesting thing. And you also highlighted the impact of on the mental health, and how we as an engineer need to contribute and need to look at various aspects related to law. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot. And you also said about the IPR and various courses you have mentioned, like IPR and software development, IPR and AI, for example. Sir, where do we get this information if we would also like to have such kind of courses in our college?
Oh, you are most welcome. You just have to drop a mail to me. One of the faculties will do it for you.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm anyway
And-
associated with Professor Kalani.
Yeah. You can write to me. Professor Kalani, of course, is a wonderful person. She is
Yeah.
actually responsible for reviving the tech, helping revive the technology law forum.
Yeah.
I have very high
Yeah.
regard for her.
Yeah, sir. So
Sir, just out of curiosity, does this 81% includes the patent from MNCs in India?
Yes, but you see, they may be in India, but it is filed by the MNC abroad because
Yeah.
they want it to be abroad, not in India.
Correct. Uh-huh.
You see,
So,
just like they repatriate money from India, they repatriate intellectual property from India.
yeah.
It is a
So
bigger
T,
drain. It is a bigger drain than the drain we have been seeing for years. This is the
yes, I
biggest
understand.
drain.
So, sitting in Bangalore, a TI employee, TI employee's work is patented by TI for US.
Yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
in India,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in India.
So thank you very much, sir. Kindly accept this virtual memento from us. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much for joining this
Thank you,
session.
thank you,
Yeah,
thank you,
thanks a lot.
thank you. I'm
So
grateful. Thank you.
yeah. So now we will have let us say 5 minutes break, 5 to 10 minutes till the next speaker joins. And please join us because ma'am is a very means we will really have her. We want to have her and listen to her because she is the BBC woman of the world, and she was among top 20 engineers, AI engineers to influential AI engineers. So I would like to listen to her, and I hope you would also like to listen to her. So I'm just waiting for her to join. So let us have a break for 5 to 10 minutes. Well, madam has not joined and she's not picking the call also. I don't know what happened. Participants will wait for 5-10 minutes because I don't know, ma'am is not replying. Yesterday night only she called and she actually replied that she'll be there on time. I don't know what happened. We'll wait for 5-10 minutes. She's not replying. Sorry, participants will not have this session. Ma'am just called me and she said that today in her home there is a COVID emergency. There is a COVID emergency in her home today morning only. So she said yes, she will not be able to join today. So she'll be mailing me if at all any other alternate date or time is possible for her. And she said she'll be joining in next 15 days at a convenient date and time. So now we will not have this session. We'll meet in the evening at 5 p.m. So thank you very much for joining. Thanks a lot. And the revised date and time for ma'am session, I'll tell you as soon as her email comes.